Welcome to the Greener Gifting Gang podcast, the show that delves into the reasons we love to choose, wrap, and share gifts with each other. Hi, I'm your host, Eve Kale, founder of Gift Wrapped by Eve, and I'm on a mission to help you experience the joy of gift giving while also considering the planet. Each episode, I'll be sharing ideas or interviewing guests who will help inspire your choice of gifts and how you present them. Whether that's for your own gifts or products you create or sell in your small business, we'll help you consider how to make small changes that can help your gifting be a little greener. Hello everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of the Greener Gifting Gang podcast. Yes, it is the podcast's first birthday. I'm so excited that we have reached this milestone. So around a year ago, I pressed publish on the very first episode of the Greener Gifting Gang podcast. And since then, we've explored sustainable gifting. I've met inspiring business owners and had some fascinating conversation about what gifting really means and also how we can do it while considering the planet too. So in today's episode, I just want to say a huge thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, sharing and supporting the show. I'm going to be sharing some highlights, some of my favourite moments from the past year, and a quick hint into what is coming next. So it's a short episode today. Just allow me to indulge a little and reflect on the first year of the podcast. So first of all, if those of you listening like to hear about the numbers, I'm going to briefly share some stats with you. So I have released in total 43 episodes, so not quite one per week, but not too bad. So I'm really excited that I managed to produce so many episodes. There were 27 of those episodes with other guests, and I have recorded quite a lot more with guests, so they will be coming very soon. Total downloads, well, there have been over 1,000 downloads of the podcast now. This is a niche podcast, and that is the exciting thing about podcasting, is that you can have conversations about really specific topics. There's a space for these conversations, and that is the thing that I have absolutely loved the most this year, is talking to people about a subject that is so important to me. And clearly it's important to you too, because I've had no shortage of guests over the last year and many more to come soon. So 67% of listeners are in Europe and 27% are in North America, and then a couple of percent elsewhere. I thought you also might be interested to know what the top 3 most downloaded episodes were. Now, bear in mind that this is a little bit tricky, and I'm not sure how meaningful it is, to be honest, because of course, the longer an episode is out, the more downloads it gets. Lots of the conversations that we have on the podcast are not just relevant for that particular week, they are conversations that can be listened to at any time. And so often when people discover the podcast, they go back to the beginning, or they discover the podcast through a particular guest or theme that they found the podcast. So bear in mind that this doesn't necessarily mean that these are the most popular episodes of all time. It's just that they've been out longer. However, having said that, these are some of my favourite episodes as well. So the most downloaded episode was my first guest episode with Yvonne Cole. Now, Yvonne is a podcaster herself and somebody who encouraged me to start this one. So it was very exciting to have her as my first guest. And we had an amazing conversation about gifting in her own life. And she is a big giver. And I would love you to go and listen to that episode if you haven't before, because it's a really lovely place to start. The next most popular downloaded episode was with Charlotte Mason Curl from No Crap Parties, and that was one of the early conversations that we had, and it was all about talking about Charlotte's campaign, the Kids Party Pact, trying to change how we think about gifting at children's parties, particularly those ones where the entire primary school class is invited. So that was a really interesting conversation. Now, there is an update coming with Charlotte, which is coming very soon. So listen out for my second conversation with Charlotte, which has some very exciting news in there as well. So that's coming soon. And also the third most popular episode was a solo episode that I recorded right at the very beginning, which was 5 simple swaps for greener gift wrapping, which is a really short episode but gives 5 different ideas, which is clearly one that's been really popular. So that's really exciting. The themes that have come out. So I've had lots and lots of conversations, over the year with different people about what gifting means to them in their own lives and in their business lives as well. And we've also talked about how we can be greener, and some people are further along the journey than others. And I thought I'd pick out 4 of the themes or kind of lessons from the podcast over the year, the different themes that were coming up time and time again. Every conversation is different, and I've absolutely loved the fact that you can have so many different conversations about the same niche subject. But actually, there are some common themes. So the first one is that gifting is all about connection. So many of my guests came back to this idea, and I think, it's not just about what the gift is, it's about what it symbolizes for the person giving and receiving. And so many times we came back to this idea that it doesn't matter what the item is, it's about the thought process that goes into it. I particularly liked the aspect in the episodes where I ask guests to talk about a meaningful gift that they've received. And Yvonne Cole in the first episode shared a lovely story about a beautiful bookmark that her friend had made for her when she was a child that she still has today. And she sent a photo of it as well, which I did pop on social media. You can still see it in my Instagram highlights, actually. So that was a really memorable moment. And the second theme that came up a lot was that small actions matter. So we talk a lot on the podcast about sustainable swaps and packaging changes, things that you can do everyday moments that you can make a little change to help the way that you choose gifts or wrap gifts to be a little bit greener. And I particularly liked Sandrine on a recent episode, Sandrine Cowling, she from A Twig's Tale. She talked about a really small thing that she'd done in her packaging, which was to get rid of the stickers that she put on her tissue paper. Um, and when she was packaging up her clay items to go out in the post, she just dropped something that she felt was unnecessary packaging. And she found an alternative way of sealing the packages so that the tissue paper that people were receiving her items in could be reused. A really small action, but one that over time will have a bigger impact. And I also love that on the podcast, we're having these conversations about these changes that we're making, and having the conversations can help us to inspire other people to have a go at making the small changes as well. Theme number 3, the experience matters. So many times we talked about the whole experience and why wrapping is a really big part of the gifting experience for the giver and also the receiver. Or should that be the other way around? For the receiver, for the person who wraps the gift and chooses the gift as much as the person receiving it. The fact that we have a process we go through where we wrap things up to surprise the person, even if perhaps they've got a really good idea about what's inside, that anticipation and the process of unwrapping or unboxing, it really matters. And the last lesson is that small businesses really help to create memorable moments. And I've loved the conversations I've had with so many smaller businesses about the impact that they're having on the choice of people who are buying gifts, and how you're helping people to enjoy the process of choosing and buying a gift, so that they're not just having to go on to a big platform and just click You're helping people to enjoy the experience and the process of giving, and you're also helping to allow them to gift in a greener way as well by the actions that you're taking in your small businesses. So, yeah, so some of my favorite moments. I have loved talking to people who celebrate occasions differently to me. I've loved hearing about other traditions. I've loved hearing about how the traditions are different in other cultures. I particularly liked talking to Nyla about the gift that started her business, and also hearing from Nyla all about giving at Eid and helping to understand that, which I was really ignorant about before. So that was really, really great episode. I also really enjoyed talking to Hannah Bartlett from the Christmas Insider and getting into all the interesting stats about and trends that there are when it comes to Christmas and gifting. That was a real highlight for me as well. And I really also enjoyed talking to Ingrid Janssen from the Declutter Hub. Now, that was one of those moments where I couldn't believe that a guest said yes. And that's the amazing thing about having this podcast. So it's small, but it gives opportunities to talk to people that you might not be able to. And Ingrid has an amazingly successful podcast with her business partner, Leslie, and she came to talk to us about mindful gift giving. And it was just a fantastic conversation and really reminded us about how we can rethink how we take on the to-do list of giving. And it was a really inspiring conversation and definitely food for thought. Yeah, so one of the things that I thought was quite interesting is that one of the themes that kept coming up was that actually conversations about greener gifting can feel a bit uncomfortable. I was inspired by quite a few guests about how they have tackled having conversations about choosing gifts in a different way. Charlotte is an example about her kids party pact and how she's championing doing things differently. I have found it really interesting to talk about the challenge of giving pre-loved gifts and how we can challenge our own mindsets when we think of something that we give having to be new. I found it really reassuring to talk to lots of people about how we all feel uncomfortable about some of these conversations, but there are ways that we can start having them. So, yeah, it's been an amazing year. And I can't believe in some ways that I've got here. There were quite a few times I thought, what am I doing? Is this really the right thing to be doing? But I am so glad that I've kept going. And there are many more episodes to come. Don't worry, I have not run out of guests. Absolutely not. I've got lots of guests lined up for you. So we're going to be having lots more conversations in year two. I've got lots more small creative business owners that are coming up on the podcast. And if you're listening to this and you haven't been a guest yet and you've got an interesting story to tell about gifting in your business, gifting in your own life, or an interesting story about being greener with gifting, I would love to hear from you. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. I'd also love to hear if there are any topics that I haven't covered yet on the podcast that you would like to hear about. So there are lots of conversations with my guests, but there's some solo episodes where I've talked about how you can use gifting as part of your marketing in your small business, your small giftable product business. And if you would like me to cover more episodes on particular subjects to help you, I'd love to hear what you'd like to hear. So yeah, get in touch. You can email me eve@giftwrappedbyeve.com. I think there's also a button when you listen to the podcast to send me a message, but you can also just pop me an email, or you'll find me on all the social platforms, Eve Kale or at Gift Wrapped by Eve. So I would love to finish by saying thank you again. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, whether you've listened to one episode or if you listened to all of them. Thank you so much for being part of the first year of the Greener Gifting Gang podcast. I would love to hear what your favourite episode has been so far. Please do share the podcast if you know somebody who would find it useful or inspiring. But thank you again, and here is to another year of thoughtful gifting, greener choices, and meaningful connections. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Greener Gifting Gang podcast. For free resources, head to giftwrapedbyeve.com/freebies and follow Eve on socials at giftwrapedbyeve on Instagram and Facebook.